Out of Congress, but not out of the limelight, Ron Paul is still lecturing his fellow lawmakers and even the president about living up to the Constitution and getting their noses out of other countries' affairs. This week, in his weekly column, it's centered around the issue of lessons from the Afghanistan war as the U.S. prepares to pull out. Here's part of that column. We are leaving Afghanistan after 12 years with nothing to show for it but trillions of dollars wasted and thousands of lives lost. Afghanistan is a devastated country with a weak puppet government, and now we negotiate with those very people we fought for those 12 years, who are preparing to return to power. Still, we learn nothing. Instead of learning from these disasters brought about by the interventionists and their failed foreign policy, the president is now telling us that we have to go into Syria. So what have we achieved in this war, and where do we go from here? To discuss, Jer Van Dyke is a journalist and author of the book Captive: My Time as a Prisoner of the Taliban, and he joins me now. Hi there, Jer. Now, for years, Ron Paul has been opposed to foreign intervention and to wars. Is isolationism really tenable at this point, given all the years that we've spent fighting?
No, I don't think so at all. I listened to what he had to say, and in part he is correct, but the United States and its allies had an obligation because we backed the Mujahideen during the 1980s when they were there fighting the Soviet Union, when they were our proxy army. We are in part, along with a great many other people, responsible for part of this destruction to which he just referred. Also, a tremendous number of Afghan girls and boys are now going to school in Afghanistan that did not before. They have, I think, over 1,200 health clinics throughout the country. Maternity, childbirth death rates are much lower than before. In many ways, the country is far better than it has ever been in its life. However, yes, correct, the war goes on. The United States and its allies have spent trillions of dollars in Afghanistan. A great many people have died. Many more, unfortunately, have been maimed for life. Tremendous tragedy. The war is not over, and the Taliban are not losing.
So if the solution is not isolationism, then what is it?
The United States must stay engaged in the world, because to isolate ourselves, the reason that the United States went into Afghanistan was so that that nation would not ever again be a place from which people like Al-Qaeda could launch attacks on, in this case, the United States or anywhere else in the West. Has the United States or has NATO accomplished that? I think it has. To a very great degree, it has done that. If the United States were to leave completely and depart, Pakistan, first of all, as well as Afghans, would be diametrically opposed. The United States will probably most likely stay in Afghanistan right now. President Karzai, on behalf of the Afghan government, and the United States are negotiating what they call a BSA, Bilateral Security Agreement, whereby after 2014, the United States and some of its NATO allies, Germany, Italy, among others, will maintain a certain number of troops there. We will also give, and this is very important, a lot of money to the Afghan government. We want the Afghan government to stay in power. We are trying to foster a sort of democracy. Difficult thing to do. It may not work. We hope it will. We want President Karzai also to step aside when his time in office is up so that another person can run for office, or others can run for office, and that democracy will then have given birth and continue. That's our goal. I don't think we'll leave.
You just brought up a lot of different points. Let's start by talking about these negotiations with the Taliban. The Taliban, of course, opened an office in Doha, Qatar. What exactly do they plan to do with this office? I mean, Ron Paul calls it a government in exile. What do you make of that?
That's exactly what the President Karzai, President Obama, and others do not want to hear. The Taliban very, very astutely raised their flag, which is a white flag, and in Arabic there it's the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is not what the United States has been working for with its allies. So the Taliban have very effectively placed themselves on almost an equal level with the Afghan government in the eyes of the world, to which Mr. Paul has just alluded. That is the absolute worst thing that anybody wants there. What are they doing there? No one really knows. They have been living a very luxurious life in air-conditioned hotels. They are there not on their own. We have to be very clear about that. These people are diplomats, and as according to what the past head of the Afghan intelligence said just recently, they have not even seen Mullah Omar, these men, in 12 years. And so what they represent are elements of the Taliban, definitely, diplomats, each one supposedly speaks another language. They're to negotiate with the United States to find a way for the United States to leave and for the Taliban to come back. Will this happen? As James Dobbins, the brand new U.S. envoy to Afghanistan and Pakistan, said, we are not naive. Our expectations are not great at the moment. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
We have just about a minute left in this show, but can you finally talk about your experiences with the Taliban? And more importantly, can you say if we can achieve peace in Afghanistan without including the Taliban?
One thing I learned as a prisoner of the Taliban is that they will not give in. They will fight to the death. I've lived with the Mujahideen in the 1980s, and then I unfortunately lived in a different capacity entirely with, I think, what we will call, to a degree, their more radical sons today. They will not give in. They will fight to the death. And I think what the United States and its allies must do is show them respect. They want this very, very much. And I think that there has been a certain cultural contempt, if you will, of the Taliban, of these people whom we've looked down upon, and they have shown us very clearly that they are not going away, that they're able to take advantage of us and fight.
And we're going to have to end it there. I'm so sorry. Journalist and author Jer Van Dyke, thank you so much.
Welcome.
That does it for me.